Hello, everyone. This is Stanford Moore with Black Reigns Magazine. We're here in Louisville, Kentucky at the 147 running of the Kentucky Derby. I'm so honored to have some local trainers here. They got years and years of experience. It's such an honor to catch up with these guys on such a monumental weekend. And we get to hear from them, the black experience. These are some of the guys that's been training horses and ownership over the years, and we would love to know everything that they have and can bring to the table to help us bridge the gap on the knowledge and the information and what it takes to be a black trainer today and over the years, and also some information and nuggets for the next generation. So it's a good time, a good conversation. Tune in, and we're going to give it to you just like it is, true, raw. This is in conversation form. We have from left to right Mr. Leslie Whitlock. He's a pastor, an owner, and a trainer. Over 60 years of experience in the industry. And we're just so honored to have him talk to you, Mr. Leslie. Also, we have Mr. Freddy Winston, owner, trainer. So many great experiences he shared with us, and we're going to love to bring that information to you. And somebody I've grown to be a good friend of over the years, Mr. John Hill Jr. He's a trainer, owner right here in Louisville, and they have years of experience, great wins, and awesome barn stories that you're going to love to hear from. Let's start with you, Mr. Leslie. Mr. Leslie Whitlock, what has been your, what has training meant to you? Let's start it this way. What has training meant to you over the years?
It's really has been a passion to me at an early age in my life. My stepfather, he trained saddlebred horses for the Mars farm back in 1930, 33, 30s, and he began to ride and train horses. And when I was born, he kind of got me into the horses when I was about 5 years old, and became a passion and something I really love to do. And through the years, I just want to be like him. I want to be a trainer. And as years went by, out of the saddlebred business, I got into the thoroughbred business back in '91, and began to groom. Always groomed, and started on the labor side of it, cleaning stalls and rubbing horses, and which I love to groom horses. And as I continue to do those type things, I rode a little bit also, and but I always wanted to be a trainer, get my trainer's license. So in the early '90s, I got my trainer's license. I owned my own horses. And as I went on, of course, most people's dream is to win the Derby, which is a vision and dream of pretty much all trainers, I'm pretty sure. But there's been things happening in life that could stop me from getting there. Sometimes lack of money, finances, or some people not helping. But I stuck with it, kept on going, and found other people who was in the horse business. Hal Steele helped me along the way, Jim Cozine, and I know Kenneth McPeak. I know had some horses with him at one time, Robin Parks and Juan Garcia. They continued to help me along the way. And after I got my license on my own, I began to train and been successful. Had some winners. Out of the last 4 horses I've had, 3 of them have been winners. And so, but I worked for UPS, and so I had to have another job because I couldn't rely on the horses winning all the time. But what I would do though, when I did win, I became a pastor and got with youth, and I began to take youth out to the farm and begin to show them the passion that I have, and to get them up off the streets so they wouldn't get into drugs. I have several children who want to, children with life skills, and now they want to get into the horse business, and tell them how to work, and let them teach them how not to get into drugs and be successful adults. So that too has motivated me too, that they want to get into it, but as a trainer, it's like it's a passion, and but also the winning part of it also is I just want to be. There's very few blacks who's in the horse business training, so I want to be one of the ones maybe can might get to a good horse sometime, good breeding, and but the good training, really knowing the foundation of the horse, and really I've always had problem horses, one that maybe broke down or a leg problem, bite or kick or something like that. It's all I've improved it because I couldn't afford a good one. But I take those that nobody else wanted, and they won, got them to win. And so that gave me a passion to get a better breeding. So as time went on, the money got better, I can afford a better horse. And along the way, I got busy in the church, doing things in the church, and that's how I met John Hill. And So I broke one of them and sent it to John, and John's done great with the horse I have. So that's just it's a passion. You have to love it. It doesn't pay a lot, but most of all, you gotta love what you're doing. And also, I got at a point where I didn't have any help, so I had to bring my horses home. And that's when I got involved with the youth and children out there. So I still wanted to get rid of them. I said, what am I doing with these horses? So I got in the breeding business, you know. And so while being in the breeding business, I still was helping people who have substance abuse problems, who have been in jail, incarcerated. The judge would send me people, or they walk up off the street, and I rehabilitate them and teach them life skills, and that's been enjoyable. So in the meantime, I got back into the horse business as a trainer. I always stayed as a trainer, and so really, I just love horses. It has to be in your blood, and you have to want to do it. It's hard work, but it's worth me being in, because I look back on my life now and see how successful that sticking with it has done. And I want other blacks, African Americans, to get in the horse business also.
Awesome. That's a great deal. What about yourself, Mr. Freddy?
Well, I'm not the kind of person who sugarcoat a whole lot of stuff. And I was around horses as a baby because my mother worked at the black kitchen. They had a black kitchen, they had a white kitchen in Churchill Downs. So I was in my stroller out there. My dad worked out there. And when you grow up around them, you learn a lot, you see a lot. I feel like I come up around some of the best trainers that some of them are still living, a lot of them are gone now. The help is different. Back in the day, you know, the older guys, and most of them were black. They took a lot of pride in what they did, you know. I mean, they'd stay around the barn all day. Nothing cut short of any horse. As time went on, with being on the track that long, that's the first dream you get, of winning the Derby. I mean, that's the biggest thing. If you're a horse person, the Derby is one of the biggest things that, you know, you can accomplish. But you gotta be realistic. I'm realistic. You know, I don't have the kind of resources. I don't have the backing. Being black, we don't have the opportunities. You know, people overlook us. They see you for a lifetime, but who's gonna reach out to help? You know, our people are, well, they don't know much about the business, so they kind of shy from it. And we need help just like anybody else. We could be just as big as any trainer out there if we have the opportunity to have the right horses. You know, I mean, you can't go in a horse race, you can't outrun a Mustang with a Volkswagen. You know what I mean? But we find a way to survive. Such as my partner here, John Hill. I mean, he's a survivor. He do what he has to do to try to survive. You know, it's the opportunities, we just don't get them. I sung with the Sounds of Blackness. I even asked Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jarman if they would buy a horse.
Right.
But they had no knowledge of it. And I'd like to say hi to you guys. I'm still here, and I'm still doing what I do. It took me 15 years to buy one horse. I had to change my whole occupation. And my dream was to win and own a horse to win at Churchill Downs. It took me 68 years to do it. And I mean, I didn't let go of my dream. You know, so if you're a dreamer, hey, I don't care what kind of business you're in, hang on to your dream. Don't give up.
Tell us about that experience. It took you 68 years to get a horse to qualify to run at Churchill Downs. Tell us about that story.
Well, I work for other people, you know, and I work for some good trainers, you know, and one of them was Dave Vance. You know, I can go on naming people that I have worked for. One thing that I did notice, and I'm not ashamed to say it, was the opportunities in my hometown where I grew up on the backside, it wasn't the same. In fact, I went south to get my trainer's license, you know. And at that time, it was kind of impossible to think that you could go south and be accepted, which I did. And I mean, it's been a struggle. You know, it's got its ups and downs, you know, but it's just like a jockey or any trainer. You're only good as your product, you know. Like I say, if you ain't got what it takes to, you know, to make the big level, and most of us smaller guys, if I did get a Derby horse, I'm gonna tell you what I'd do with it. I'd probably sell it. I'd probably sell it.
Absolutely. What about yourself, Mr. John Hill?
Well, what inspired me to get in the horse business was my dad. He was a trainer. Getting up in the mornings, I noticed he would go out and train his horses and then go to work. So one morning, I got up when he got up and I wanted to go. It was before I had to go to school. So the first day I went, led on to the second day, and then the third day, and next day, in those weeks, months, I would go out and help him. He would go out and train his horses. I would help, bring me back home, take a shower, and go to school. I'd done that from the time I was probably in the 5th grade. I started going, and as I got older, I noticed that we spend a lot of time together. So I think that helped our relationship, because I even followed him on the weekends. So I was around my dad at least 7 days a week. And even when I moved out, you know, I would still see him every morning, because him, my uncle, we would all meet up every morning at the barn. So as time went by, I noticed that, you know, this is something that I wanted to do and wanted to help him do. So I started training horses on my own. And he started backing out of it. You know, he started letting me do what I wanted to do and let me call the shots, and he just oversaw what I was doing. You know, he didn't let me make too many mistakes. And, you know, he was there for me, but he just let me do what I wanted to do after he showed me. I've been training horses for over 20-something years now.
Wow, 20-something years. That's pretty good. As we watched over the years, you know, African Americans once had a big footprint in the training, in the as far as being jockeys, trainers, groomsmen. What does that look like? You guys been doing this since the 70s as trainers, owners. What does that look like? How's that transition? Paint us a picture on what it looked like then and where we are today, for people that don't know.
Well, for the people who don't know, when horse racing first started, there were plenty of blacks. Black jockeys, black trainers. Actually, the black trainers were actually training for the white trainers. White trainers was not, they weren't coming out. Everybody was black. The whole backside was black. But now, as the money started getting better, that's when you started seeing more white jockeys start coming in. And that started pushing the black jockeys out.
Absolutely.
So when the black jockeys were riding around, then they wasn't getting the mounts that they was getting, so they had to go somewhere else. And they started pushing them farther and farther out, and then they started pushing them away. But that's a little bit of the history, and they probably could tell you a little bit more about it. But you know, from me speaking to a lot of black jockeys, that's what ran them out. As the money, as the purse has gotten bigger, then, you know, we started getting pushed out. And then as the grooms, you know, I'm only going by what some of the people have told me, that when, you know, they started asking for a little bit more money and working, then that's when the white trainers started going to the Spanish Mexicans and working for less. And then that started pushing
The people,
some of your
black trainers.
trainers and grooms out.
Because at the end of the day, it is a job. It's a business
It's a
like
job.
anything. It's like lawn care.
Yes,
If you found somebody that can do it cheaper,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're supporting your family.
Yes.
it's a business. It's a
Right.
business.
I don't knock anybody that's doing it, because people have to survive. But as horsemen, you know, this day and age, it's a tough business. We still have to do 7 days a week. You know, and you have to have a passion for it. You know, it's something that either you got a passion or a goal. I'm 70 years old, so my goal was to just be who I am and do what I do. But everything in life ain't fair. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have things that along your road to your destiny, you're gonna have hurdles. Or you're gonna have them storms, and you just have to wade through them and keep it moving. As far as black trainers, I mean, we always, anytime Derby come up, you're gonna hear mostly about the jockeys. And it was like we swept up under the table. They don't even know we exist. And there's been some good black trainers over the years, even in the 60s and the 70s, the Oscar Dishmans. I mean, there's James Jackson, you know, John Hill. You know, my dad actually was a trainer, but he didn't have that title. But he took care of business and he won races, you know. And it's a lot different these days, you know. I don't know what to say. Some things I mean, if you know where I've been, such as this picture that I showed this gentleman, I'm sure he'll let y'all see it.
Yeah, what? That's another. That's a private conversation.
At the time that I come up, I've seen a whole lot of things. At times I get bitter because I know what I've been through. I know how I've tried. I know the opportunities for me up north, around Minnesota, Chicago, a lot of other places. I was accepted as a man, you know, and sometimes I feel like the opportunities that you get after being a lifetimer in Kentucky as a child, some things in life ain't fair, but you can slow me down, but you can't stop me, because I'm gonna keep on coming as long as I can, you know, and I'm gonna pass it on to you.
I know that financially, it's difficult in horse business, and we can talk to a lot of African Americans and make them assure that let them understand what the horse business is all about. And it is a business, you know, and but you get out of it what you put in it also, you know, and you have to use somebody who's talked here before that you have to be passionate about it and be sincere about what you're doing also. You can't just say you want to get in and then next day you're gone, you know, when the vet bill comes in, you know. It has its ups and downs, but really financially I got a better job, UPS, where I can financially afford the horse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could do it myself, you know. Then when I started winning, I took the part that, the overhead, I took it first, but I also put it back into a ministry that I was doing also, you know. But I've had some owners, some partners. Curtis Jackson, one of the best partners I've ever had. You know, he's right there with us, and we won with the horse. We had fun with it, and maybe we do more advertising like this right here, what you're doing, and let them know, realize that it's a lot of fun. You know, you have to have a passion for a lot of fun, and you can make so much extra money at it. But really, just to be there and be in the spotlight in the winner's circle, there's no better joy. When I had my first winner, you know, jumped up probably 5 feet in the air. Well, not that happened anyway, but it's a lot of fun when you do win and take that winning picture. But to be a part of something, you know, that you've been excluded from, is a success in itself. You know?
It is. So even the things that we see on TV, we see it in all its glamour. We see Churchill Downs, Sport of Kings. You know, it's pictured to be this wealthy business of millionaires and billionaires. And I want to ask this question for John. You know, give us the ins and outs right now on what it takes to get into business. You're the trainer. I'm the customer. I'm the money. I want to bring you some money. What is it? Present to me. What would it take for you, as a trainer, as a business, for me to invest in that business with a product and say, I need you to train that to be something, a quality racehorse down the road. I'm coming to you. And how would you pitch that to me? What would it take for me to get involved? Because see, I'm a novice, and a lot of people watching this, it looks like it's out of reach. Like, man, these are millionaires, these are sheiks. These are people from foreign lands that we see on TV. We don't even know anybody personally. But there are average, everyday people that's racing horses like you guys are owner trainers. They don't believe it's for them. Present to me and say, hey, I'm John Hill. This is what I can do with this. This realistically, if you present to me this amount of money, I can day in, day out, give me what that process would look like.
Well, exactly. I can tell you this. They don't, what they make it seem like is that's what they want you to think. Mm-hmm. And it's going to cost you $300,000 or $400,000 a year. And that's what they pitch with, if you listen to them, because they always tell you how much this horse costs. But that's not necessarily true. Because those same horses that they're selling for $300,000 or $400,000 on up to $1 million, they also selling from $1,000 up. See, but they don't want you to hear that you can get into the business for $1,000. You can buy you a horse for $3,000, or you can buy them for $6,000. You can buy them horses like that at the same sale that these billionaires are buying horses from. So, and I think that's why a lot of blacks say, man, I can't afford that. But yes, you can. But what they don't want you to hear, because that hurts their stud fee when they start selling these horses for $1,000, and then they say, well, you know, this horse was only purchased for $1,000. Like a friend of mine just said, California Chrome only cost like $8,000. He went on to win the Kentucky Derby. So, I mean, you know,
I'm at a meeting.
You can purchase, you can get into the business without spending that type of money. Yeah. And really, what a lot of folks are doing now, if you can't afford to buy and purchase by yourself, what they're doing is they're coming up with syndicates. So they're coming up with groups, and they're putting their money together where it's not a burden on just one person. Where, you know, that you might be paying that trainer, I'm just saying, $1,000 a month, which, you know, you can split that however many ways. How many people was in there, you can split that up. So that brings you in. But we as black people won't do that. But there's a lot of white groups, the white folks, that's what they're doing. And that's how they're getting in this horse business.
It makes it affordable.
It makes it affordable. So there's all kinds of ways you can get in.
That's just good information for people to know. Absolutely. I mean, because most people think, you know, what are some of the tricks? I mean, you don't have to go out and buy some super fancy everything. There's some ways around to make it affordable to keep yourself in business as a horse trainer.
Everybody I've ever trained for, I've kept them in the business because we don't have a whole lot of overhead. You know, we're not going out and buying new halters every week. I mean, I know some trainers they'll use a halter for one month and throw it away. Where, you know, that halter is still good. You just purchase it. But you can get into some little knickknacks, and then that makes the bill go up. You're just running people out of the business.
Right. And you misusing their money. And it's, you know, we got a lot of wealthy owners. They can do that where it won't affect their bottom line. But as a small owner, you got to make stuff make sense. You can't just afford to just throw halters away just because.
And then there's several ways you can buy horses too.
Right.
Just like I told you about going to Kingland and buying and purchasing yearlings, you know, you can also claim horses like Freddy did. He claimed a horse for $5,000, and I think in 1 year almost made him $100,000. So there's all kinds of ways you can do it, and you can grab two people, put up $2,500 a piece, and go and claim those horses.
Absolutely.
So there's different ways. You can privately purchase them if you want it like that, so you know what you're getting. You just have to be guided the right way, and you have to know what route you want to take. You know, some people want to go the long route, which it's going to take a little bit more money, but you don't know what you're getting. It's 50-50 chance when you buying a horse for $2,000 or $3,000. You might find a diamond in the rough. I mean, there has been horses that won the Louisiana Derby that went on to the Derby that they have only paid $1,000 for.
But that's usually the story that's not being promoted.
They don't want that story to be told because that hurts that horse's stud fee. And then because if you tell people I'm going out there buying horses for $1,000 on up to say $10,000, they really don't want that. They want you to say, "Oh man, because they want to sell. The farms want to sell these horses for as much as they can get.
It justifies them putting a big price tag on that stud fee.
On that stud fee. You know, because I can tell you what, there's thousands of horses out there that people done spent over $100,000 and they never made that money back. So I mean, you know, my dad for years bought horses for $2,000 and $3,000, and I mean it is what it is. He has proof. He's won allowance races with him. He bought a horse, one of his last horses. He paid $3,000 for, and he ran for $500,000 just maybe 5 or 6 years ago before he got out of the business. Before he retired, that was his last horse.
You also have to have an eye for a horse too. You know, the confirmation goes along with that $1,000. You know, you might see something that somebody else don't see, or might have been through a sale, may have some kind of deformity or something early, and as they've grown older, maybe 6 months later, they probably grew out of it. Might have been a little crooked, but they grew up straight or something like that. But having an eye for good horses too, is that you can get those pretty reasonable also. You know?
I was going to ask you, what are some of the things you look for as an owner? Say I'm a person bringing you $10,000 and I say, man, I got 10. Go find me a good horse. What are some of the things as an owner, as a customer coming to you and saying, what are some of the things you look for? And this, any one of you guys can take this, because y'all all may have different, because you learn different over the years. I start with you. What are you looking for when you pick out your next Derby contender?
Breeding. Look at the breeding background. The breeding. You got good breeding. Most of the time, the Golden Dancer, that type of bloodlines. You know, the breeding first of all. You know, the breeding most time will stay because the breeding comes on with the confirmation. You know, the breeding, then the confirmation, how they built, the rear and back end, how the chest and how straight they are. But mostly the breeding first, then I'll go from the breeding, which is, this is what I'll look for first, the breeding, then the confirmation. And a lot of times you see that, how one walks, if it's too close, too far apart, those type of things.
What about you, Mr. Freddy?
Well, I look at it like this. I'm 70 years old. I ain't got a lot of time to be doing this. If I had 10,000, I'd go claim one because I want to be able to turn around and run it. You bring him over and I get a chance to look at him, then I can determine, well, I like the way this horse is hitting the ground. I like the way he look. He's got a little bit of breeding. Maybe he can do the job. But there's a lot that goes with that. But I mean, it's like a quick turnaround because the way the purses are today, you can turn around and get your money right back. If you make the right decision. But anything you do in this business, I mean, it's like anything else. It's got risks. But, like I say, syndicates, there's a lot of ways to get in it. And then if you like it from that point, then maybe down the line, you might want to buy something, and take a longer route and try to, hit the ball out of the park. But the first thing is being able to try to enjoy some of your money. And even a person that don't know, if he looks long enough and study, he might be the one to say, I like that horse. I want you to get that one for me. And together you can put together what you see, how he performs, and you come up with something where you can not, if you can't get all your money back at once, you might be able to get some of it. In what, 30 days, 40 days,
Yeah.
So it's a different approach.
What about yourself, John?
Well,
Because there's secrets now. It ain't.
There's
This
a whole lot
ain't
of secrets,
because
right?
this is
And
the
I'm not
thing. You ain't gonna let all yours
and
out,
I'm
are
not
you?
gonna let all these secrets come out because I'm telling you something. My dad passed away about 2 years ago, and I'm telling you that he was good picking out yearlings. And he told me a lot of things to look for. Now, of course, you do want that breeding, but you also want that confirmation. And he was key. He had a good eye for a horse. I mean, like I said, even the big time trainers used to tell me, said, man, your dad knows how to pick them horses out at that yearling sale. Because he would go and buy his own one or two. But, I will say one thing is those horses that he would pick out as yearlings, most of them would be like first time studs, and he would jump on right off the bat and take a chance on it. And then that second one, he would look at that mare, and he would say, man, this horse ain't gonna sell because look how much money she's made, but it's her first foal. And he would jump on that. If that confirmation was good and that horse done made $500,000 and he was bred to a good stud, he would go after it. And then Mr. Whitlock says something that's very key. He would go after a whole lot of old bloodline because those bones, he would tell me that the older horses, they had good bone structure. They last longer. He said a lot of these guys now that are running these horses, they as 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, and that's it. He said a lot of them are soft bone. They're not gonna last. They won't hold up. So he would look at how long that horse had been running in his career. Good studs, man. I mean, nowadays if you win the Kentucky Derby, win the Preakness, or win the Belmont, and then you are one of those, you're automatically a stud. Just take for instance the horse that beat. They took down Maximum Security and they put up Country House. You never heard from him after that. He's a stud. That's something my dad would stay away from. He would never probably want a horse out of him because he hadn't showed you nothing. Somewhere down the line, that horse got hurt right after that dirt because he never ran it. So he would tell me, this is something that you want to stay away from.
Now, speaking of that, I look at you guys and I just don't find a lot of young trainers coming through now. You made a point earlier, it's transitioning where it used to be dominated in the 90s, as close as the 90s, of having 90% African Americans at Churchill Downs as groomsmen, high walkers, you know, and the industry is moving more and it's starting to lose people that look like yourself over the years. The average farmer, I think, right now is 67 years old, black farmer, with the young generation and not picking up the mantle and continuing that as far as livelihood. What do you think is happening as far as, because you guys are getting up in age, I think it's 50s plus. What is it going to look like in the next 20 years if we don't save this information and get more young people involved in racing?
A lot of it's hard work. It's hard work, and some of the young folk come up now don't know what hard work is. Well, live in the city, not rural anymore. And all they have to do is make up the beds. They don't. From my experience, they don't do any work at all. They make up the bed, maybe take out the trash. That's about it. If you can't get to them and take them on a farm where it's rural, and teach them how to work, they're not going to be interested in it. Because they sit behind the desk now, they're doing a little easy work, you know, doing automated work, you know. So the hard work part, there's a lot of it. It's not, it's making it so easy for them to do it, you know. And there's nothing. When I came up, I was close to a farm. I could go to work, but anymore it's more urbanized, you know, more city, and there's not a lot to do. So they don't really know how to work. So I try to go in the city and get those children and take them out on the farm to teach them how to work. Trying to produce young trainers and young African Americans to put them in the horse business. Okay. So it's a different society now, really, you know.
So it's also about exposure and being in contact.
I guess. Let me answer that for you. Growing up, you know, you hear people say, the teachers say, hey, what do you want to be in life? Oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. You know, I want to be this. I want to be that. Just like you said, exposure. Yeah. Well, you don't see black trainers getting exposure on TV because every time the blacks as a community probably watching the races, it's only the Derby, the Belmont, the Preakness. It's all, and you never see black trainers. Rare. I mean, I think the last black trainer you saw maybe was 3 or 4 years ago was this guy Saint something.
St. Julian Barnes?
No.
Out of New Jersey. I forgot his name.
Oh, trainer.
He was
He's a Caribbean guy that came to this country.
He come in there and he's funding his own operation. It's a family thing. Him and his wife and somebody. But before him, you're probably talking about 20 years. So they're never getting the exposure. So when you don't see them on TV, you know, you don't get kids that say, hey, I want to be a trainer. And then if you go to the equine program in Louisville at U of L, when those kids come, they go to Churchill Downs. On Churchill Downs' ground, there is no black trainers. If you put in a stall application, you automatically go to trackside. You're not going to Churchill Downs. So you're not exposed. So when they go around to different barns, all they see is white trainers. You never see black trainers. And there hasn't been probably black trainers over there at Churchill Downs' main track in over 20 years.
Wow.
But that's a whole nother subject.
Right.
And I mean,
but it's good information because everybody is still asking questions of how the process works. Why don't we? And that was a good answer on giving us a reason why. You just, in the honesty, it's brutal honesty. It is what it is. But you just don't see enough of us. And seeing is everything. If you can't be president without seeing believe you can be president without seeing a Barack Obama, a President Barack Obama in office now, you're more inclined to say, hey, I want to be that one day.
Our vice president right now.
Oh, our vice president.
So black women now say, hey, listen, I can do this because it's being done. They see her on TV. And the same thing, a black male, I can be the president because Barack Obama was president. But very seldom, I mean, you know, we're right here in the city of Louisville, and your own community don't even know that there's black trainers in your own neighborhoods.
Yeah,
Right.
It's like that even in Frankfurt, like that.
You know?
Especially to be celebrated on a weekend like this.
Celebrate on the weekend. Matter of fact, there's no we don't even get exposure in your own city. You don't get invited to the parties that they have. They have functions that's going around all Derby week. You don't get invited to the museum. You know.
Don't get introduced to
You don't get
some of the
introduced
people
to
that have money
anything.
that could possibly
You know.
help.
Because that goes back into the celebration of when you do research and you look for black trainers and owners so you can be inspired just to know a part of your own history because you're black.
Right.
Hearing stories and voices of people like you to make it seem real. Like, man, we had a part into all the great things that we see in horse racing today. And I think that's important because a lot of people do the research and they got to dig deep just to find. And people in your own city, in your own neighborhood, that don't even know,
I mean,
it still doesn't make it
on their
real.
mind.
I mean, all we want to do now is, because that's what we do. We see. We want to be basketball players. We want to be football players. We want to be baseball players. We want to run track, because you see blacks doing it. But when you never see blacks, when they come on TV, race after race after, all day long, and you never see blacks going over there, you don't even know if that exists. That's why there's very few now. I mean, okay, I'll use this as an example. Until Tiger Woods started playing golf, how many blacks did you see on the golf course? Very few. Then once he started playing golf, now that's all you see on the golf course. I know guys that I grew up with, they playing golf now. We never did play golf when we was young. But until we saw Tiger Woods playing golf, we started playing the golf. And that's all it's going to take. Is once they see somebody on TV winning big races, $1 million races, and they're going to say, hey man, shoot, I can do that. And we might be able to save some brothers from killing each other.
Right.
Might be able to help them. Because
So-
it's a good paying job for
Right.
some of these grooms.
That's what I was going to ask you. What type of career opportunities for people that don't know? Because they see, what's on TV. What type of career opportunities? Because it's changed now. It's starting to become big business.
Exactly.
What type of career opportunities are afforded to African Americans or anybody that want to get involved in racing?
They have jobs out there: grooms, hot walkers, assistant trainers if you work your way up. They got blacksmiths. I even think we need to have some veterinarians that could be black. But my thing is, if you're just a hot walker, I know some hot walkers are making $450, $500 a week working.
7 days of
7 days. Okay. 7 days a week, most of them. But
Right.
here's the thing: you might get with an outfit that gives you a day off. So you might get a day off, but I'd rather, if I'm out there and I'm not doing anything, and I'm looking for a job, and I just want to work from maybe 6 o'clock in the morning till 10, 11 o'clock, and then I can sleep and do all that every day, I'd rather take that job. There's some benefits to it too. They don't work all day.
Right.
So some of them, it all depends on who you're working for.
So we were talking about this, John, one day. Programs that could help young people get involved in the race. Because there's a lot of people. I was on a radio show one day, and we had like 5 kids to call into that show. They're saying, I wanna be a trainer one day,
Right.
or a groomsman, and they just didn't, in their state, they didn't know of nobody to call on to get involved.
Les has a real good program.
Right.
I mean, and I think his program, even though it's substance abuse people, but he can also, you just don't have to be on drugs to go through his program. You know, he can help, you know, anybody. And we can train anybody, you know, who wants to go that route.
Mm-hmm. So let's throw a what it would take out there, and I'm doing this so people can hear, because some people, there may be a young kid that can't afford to but raise their hand. What would it take? Let's say, how many weeks would you think to give a young lady a good footprint on taking them a direction they need to go as far as training? How many weeks would that they could come and spend down here, say in Louisville, they from California, and say, I could take a kid and take this amount of money, because this should be the apprenticeship. This is an investment in somebody's life. That knowledge you're giving them is a curriculum that should cost. It shouldn't be free, because it's your time. What would it take for them? How many weeks you think I can say, in this amount of time, we can come up with a figure later. This amount of time, I can give you a good start into being your own trainer, or a direction on being a hot walker or groomsman or a trainer?
I think you'd have to teach them how to be a groom and hot walker first. You'd have to teach them the basics, and then your training would come. Because, like I said earlier, I worked for my dad, and I thought I was ready for my license, and he refused to let me take the test. Matter of fact, I know I went to the man to get my license, and he said, your daddy told me not to let you take the test until he said so. So I worked for free for at least 3 or 4 years. It's almost like going to college, you know, but when he told me to go take the test, he wanted to make sure that I knew everything about a horse, you know, from head to toe. And he wanted me to know my medications. He wanted me to know my pose, about the track. Training, just taking care of a horse, it's more to it than that. You know, you need to know the tracks. You know, you need to know your times. You need to know where the poles are. You need to know medications. You know how to need to read the condition book. You need to know, there's a lot involved. It's almost like going to college.
Yes.
You know, so really, I would say after you learn how to groom, you're still gonna have to put the work in and study from up on somebody for about 3 or 4 years.
You're right. So what you're saying, a groom is a good start to find out if you really have this in you.
If you really want it.
Right.
And we even left out exercise riders. If you're small enough, and a lot of people say, man, you know, I don't know what to do. I'm small. Man, you make good money of being an exercise rider. You know, galloping horses. You just don't have to be a jockey. You know, there's so many jobs back there on that backside that the Spanish people are taking advantage of, that not even the blacks won't take advantage of. There's a lot of white grooms. They're being deleted too.
Right.
You know, it's just the whole backside is Spanish now.
Right.
You know, you don't even see hardly white grooms anymore taking care of horses.
Right.
So we both races are being pushed out.
Right. By people that are underbidding, just getting it for the best price. They're working for the best price.
Oh, they work for the best price.
Yeah.
And everybody's different. It might take somebody 3 years. It might take somebody else 5 years.
Yeah.
It depends on the individual and how they want to do it. You know. And, as far as exposure, I'm not trying to go back, but in Frankfurt, I am getting the exposure in the Frank magazine about what I'm doing on the farm as a trainer. Now, at the State Journal, I've had, within the last, 5 years, I've had several articles in the paper, so I'm getting more exposure, and I'm getting more people coming, like I said, but it's the exposure that I'm getting, you know, there in Frankfurt.
Right.
You know, so, just like I said, anybody can come, not just substance abuse, anybody can come who want to work. Parents might call me and say, hey, my son, I need to send him out there to go to work because I can't, he needs to go to work. He's not doing right at home or in school, you know. don't have behavior, anything like that, but just to come and work, teach them how to work. So that exposure in the paper, magazine, Frank magazine, and in the State Journal articles, telling exactly what I've been doing. So that's helped me a lot too there, because it's a smaller city too. You know?
Yeah. But there's people all over the country that want to know. They just don't know who to call. And it's a great opportunity to know you created an atmosphere and a program that people can come and get involved in. And we can work that out. So as people watch this interview and contact us as Black Reins Magazine, now I can know to put them in contact with somebody that have the answers that I wouldn't have, to be able to show them or tell them what it would take to get them started on what they're looking for.
It's good therapy. It's good
Great
therapy.
therapy. Horses can do that. They can humble you.
Yes, they should. Good therapy.
That's why a lot of veterans are getting into it.
Well, you can't leave this out either. They have tons of women back there walking horses.
Yes.
I mean,
Right.
you know, it is what it is. You know, they carry them jobs, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like it's a difficult job. It's just learning how to do it.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a skill.
Right, it's a skill. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a skill.
And
But
from
yeah.
from there they get to know the animals. You know. Because animals are like people. A lot of them got different personalities.
Mhm. Absolutely. So as a legacy, as we close, we got about 10 minutes left. As we close, I mean, there's going to be people watching this, but for your family and friends that didn't know you or didn't get to watch and see you race, what would you want to leave them? And as far as your legacy and your contribution to racing, take us out and we'll ask each one of them, you guys, this, because your grandkids will probably be watching this one day that didn't get to see Granddaddy race personally, but will now know your history. What legacy you want to leave to the next generation, your family, over the years?
Well, my stepfather, like I said, started at the Mars farm down in Tennessee, the Milky Way farm, for Frank Mars. And I saw that he was in the background doing all the work, and the trainer, the owner, was getting all the publicity. So the legacy I want to leave now is that it's turned around some now that I'm where the owner and trainer is, and I'm going to bring somebody else up to do the same thing. So it can be done if you stay with it. That legacy is that you can make it if you stick to it.
Absolutely. What about you, Mr. Freddy?
Well, I'd like to say that I would like to ask people to please try to reserve some of our history. You know, we got people out here every day, black trainers that struggle trying to be competitive with, you know, the big dogs or whatever you want to call them. But without help, it'll never happen, you know. So, I mean, we only got one time to do this because we are getting excluded from the business. And there's no doubt about that, which there could be changes, but from the time that I've been around, it's hard for me to imagine, you know. And I'm not being negative about it, but if we don't get some help, then you can sweep history under the rug, just like the rest of our history that we don't know about. You know, we see it every day, it's starting to come out now, but don't nobody know about us. And help preserve history. Do something, help us just one time in life. John?
I would just like to see more blacks get involved as grooms, hot walkers, trainers. I already know I have a 10-year-old son. I already know what he's going to do. He's going to be in the horse business.
Right.
He's going to train horses because as 10 years old, he follows me around to racetracks. He knows. He knows more probably about it than I did when I was 10. But kids grow up quicker. They learn quicker now. And like I said, I would just like to see a little bit more blacks involved, and I would like to see more black owners because even if you don't own your own business, you come in and you have 5 or 6 different girls, a group, this and that, you guys are owners. You're owning your own business. So I would just like to see that happen.
And I really thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedule. Because look, one thing about we know being a trainer, it's 7 days a week. Rain, sleet, or snow, you got to do it. And for you guys to make time for not just myself, but for the public to see behind the scenes. We see the glory and the big hats and the millionaires and the valets on TV, but to bring it from a perspective of the real work going on behind the scenes, behind the paddock, the African Americans of throughout the years. There's very few times that we've heard your voices, seen your faces, but to know that there's great black trainers, not just trainers. We got people in the room now with a winning percentage. What's your winning percentage, John?
Last year I was at 50%. Well, 47%.
47% return. That is just crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And compared to the people we see on TV, give that a perspective on return on investment, what that looks like as a 50%. If you in the race, you in the money.
Right.
That's big time.
Yeah, that was for the year.
I can go so far into that one because that's amazing to know that we're sitting in the room with people that are not just trainers, but winning trainers. The only thing separating you from what we see on TV is just the exposure and somebody highlighting your greatness.
Right.
Because if you had better horses that we see on TV, that percentage would be probably through the roof.
Oh yeah, and like Freddy said, like I said earlier, I mean, to take a $5,000 horse and turn around and make almost $100,000 with, and that's unheard of.
That's unheard of.
And actually, I don't know if he said it, but he also won 3 races out at Churchill Downs and 1/3
Yeah.
in one summer. That's unheard of.
Unheard of.
That I mean, it's hard. It's hard to win 1 race out there with a horse. She won 3. Should have won 4 for real.
It's just amazing, man. It's amazing. And for people to hear your voices, see the faces, and we'll put up information if you want to contact these guys to get involved in the business of horse racing. There's room for you. And I thank you guys for taking time out with us, Black Reins Magazine. And it's an honor for me. So I give it up, and we all give it up to you. John Hill Jr., Mr. Freddy Winston, Pastor Leslie Whitlock, and we thank you guys for taking time out for us today. And it's an honor. And hopefully this ain't the last time we'll get together. But we'll see the industry change just from your conversation alone. And I thank you guys so much. So with that said, we're going to close this interview, and thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.